Can you hear me? Is it on? Is it? Yeah. Can you hear me? There we go, you can hear me. Good morning. Welcome to the first masterclass of the 9th World Islamic Economic Forum held in London. Today we're going to be exploring the idea of apprenticeship and internship to address youth unemployment. First up we have Vishnu Swaminathan, who's the current country director for Ashoka Innovators for the Public in India. Ashoka is a global association of the world's leading social entrepreneurs with system-changing solutions for the world's most urgent social problems. If I could invite Vishnu to address the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, before I start the presentation, I must tell you that if you just go to Google and search for unemployment, it's actually quite depressing. The reason why it's depressing is that it shows up all these amazing, big, huge numbers across the world, and it just shows all the problems. So I thought maybe let's not think too much about the problems this morning, and let's just talk about some interesting solutions which we have kind of spotted around the world. And primarily I come from India, so I'm going to show you a couple of examples from India, and then talk about ways on how this can be multiplied. I think let's take the positive approach this morning than talking about the real numbers and getting a little bit depressed. So, okay. So, I don't want to go to numbers, but I just want to kind of highlight. If some of you have seen that the forum booklet, which just talks about what's the summary of the numbers all around. There's page 34 and 35, which is this. So, which kind of shows you exactly what I intended to show all of you. So I'm not repeating it, but it's there for you to refer whenever you would like to. Now, the other thing is, there was a big study by IFC on jobs. And just Google for IFC and jobs, and then you will find these numbers. It's actually a huge, fantastic 120-page report, which primarily talks about what are the job challenges are. So in a nutshell, these are all the numbers. Again, like I said, I don't want to go through any of this, but the last one is really astonishing. 625 million youth, neither working nor studying. That's really a huge challenge, I think, in front of all of us. So let's just move on. The summary of those messages from that study is these three, which kind of struck my thought. The first one it says is that the service sector created maximum number of jobs last year globally. Now, the services sector, as all of you know, it's happening in the urban areas where a lot of people are providing new services. This includes all the malls coming up all around the world. You need people to man those malls, etc. And then, in emerging economies, maximum jobs are offered by SMEs. Now, SMEs here are people who are employing between 10 and 250 people. So SMEs are offering the maximum employment. Now that again talks to something about entrepreneurship, so which we will talk in a while. And the third one, which is really very critical in my opinion, is that critical thinking, self-respect and getting things done are fundamental skills. And this is not something which I am saying, it's from the report. And the report says that this is what is missing. Primarily saying people are not getting critical thinking, self-respect and getting things done. Now, I can go on and on by saying the number of people who are actually in schools but not getting jobs. Meaning they finish a degree or they finish an undergraduation but they don't get jobs. Why? Because these are the things missing, and that's what even the large companies are saying. So, this is a problem. All of us know this is a huge problem, but how do we move to the opportunity? Now I just want to show you another equally interesting problem which everybody thought was a huge issue like a decade ago, was primarily the informal economy, right? And today if you realize, the informal economy is so huge, but people have actually started turning it around to opportunities. So let me just show you this slide. It's actually a very famous TED talk by Robert Newith, is a very famous author. And this primarily talks about what is the size of the informal economy. And I just want to kind of point you to saying that the formal economy is leaving out more than what the actual formal economy itself is. because it's really, the informal economy is so huge. It's around more than 2 billion people who are in the informal economy. But what has really happened in the informal economy in the last few years, if you realize, is people have turned it around and provided informal financial services, microfinance, where it's come today. All of it is born from the informal economy. So I am saying, let's see unemployment as an opportunity like that, which is in the 10 years time from now, it's not going to be a problem, but it's a huge opportunity waiting to be unlocked. So I'm just going to kind of talk about 4 stages, right? So if you see an unemployed person, what do? You give him a job. But then you realize there are many more people, then you kind of provide lots of jobs for them. So that's direct services and lots of direct services. But we believe that the problem cannot be addressed by just doing 1 and 2. They are important, but it cannot be addressed by that. The third level is changes the ways jobs are addressed. Like I talked to you about, it's not about technical training, it's about making sure that they have the right skills, the right language skills, the right outlook towards getting a job done. And the last one is ways to make an unemployment history. And I really mean it, because that's what we call as framework change, is maybe after a few years, you don't see unemployment as a problem, but you see it as saying, yeah, it's already solved, or this is the way it's getting solved. So that's what we are interested in, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Primarily, if you see 3 and 4 are related to skills, you really need to understand how do you provide those necessary skills to make that possible. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples from India. So the first one is urban poor, which is empowering rural areas. Now the urban poor, like I told you, is the informal economy, which is really huge, right? Meaning the numbers are really big. So just let me show you one example of an organization called Saath and Ashoka Fellow. Now in the last year alone, what they have done is they have actually taken all these people who are really the urban poor youth, and what they have really done is they have made them into employable. So for example, last year alone, the youth employability program of this one organization in India touched 50,351 people. Now I just want to say something. When I say they make jobs possible for these guys, it means they take the people from the slum, train them on certain skills, give them job placement. So they are given actually 3 jobs per person as a choice. They actually can choose to take the first job. If they don't like, they can go to the next job and so on. So they're given 3 choices. So 50,000 people have been placed in the last year. This is really amazing. How did they do it? This is exactly what they do. So they first take the community assessment, then they mobilize the participants, they do counseling, they do mentorship, and then practical exposure, on-the-job training, skill building, financial linkages, and then placements. So now if you look at all of this, this is a really practical, methodical way in how a particular person gets trained. As you can see here, primarily the focus is on this, which is subject knowledge, basic English, work readiness, understanding the market, and life skills. So as you can see, work readiness and understanding the market is really critical for people to actually find jobs. That's what no other organization is actually offering the training for. So if these guys in the slums of India, in the western part of India, they come from Gujarat, they are able to place 50,000 people. How do we multiply this? And this is all focused on young people who are in the slums of a particular city. Now let me go to the next example. The next example is fascinating. It's an organization called Head and High. Now I'm just going to show you a couple of videos of before and after. These are like those, have you seen these ads in the newspaper? You can lose weight, and this is before and after. So it's just something like that. But it's fascinating how people transform. And let me just tell you, let's just see the video first. And this is actually a guy of Ramesh. Ramesh is basically a villager. He's never been to school after 3rd standard, which is 3rd grade. He dropped out of school, and he was just doing some work in the village, the most rural villages of India. This is a sample. Let's play.
My name is Randaree.
So he's speaking in the native language, so that you can't understand what he's saying, but you can at least understand where his confidence level is and where he is, and obviously nobody's going to offer him a job, right? Meaning if he applies for a job in a city, obviously there's no confidence, he cannot get to a job. Now, can you just pause this? And then let's move to the next one. this is exactly after 4 months. Exactly after 4 months, this video was shot and Ramesh is speaking now. Please take a look at it.
To raise buffaloes and you will become like your father. I told them, even I want to come to school, but no one is there to raise buffaloes. Which are source of income for our family. I felt very sad. I did not know what to do. I did not know what time was and how to count anything. Sometimes I used to sell onions, but I couldn't calculate whether I made profit or loss. I had never traveled on the bus. When the audition for my team came for an interview in my village, one of them told me to say my name is Ramesh. I tried for half an hour, but I could not say it properly. But I tried hard to learn it. I was selected. When I started the training, I found it very difficult to speak with people because I was very scared. I was scared of touching a computer, but slowly I started learning. I started using the computer, not typing. I created my email ID and started.
So, this video it's online, so I can share it with you. But just to show that how confidence improves by just learning a language. And essentially it's only been taught English and computer skills. And today, Ramesh is working in a BPO, a business process outsourcing setup in the rural area itself. In his village, there is actually a BPO setup. And Ramesh actually does not move to the city, but he stays in the village and works in that BPO. And there is actually an ironical story. There is a large IT company in India called Genpact, and all the people who are working there, their human resource is actually outsourced to the BPO he's working. So he actually types out letters to 5 people who are graduates. That's the job of Ramesh, right? So you can see how life-changing it is for a person like Ramesh. And it's a matter of just a couple of months, not long. But this is basically, I don't want to show this video, it's okay. I'll skip because of time. So this video kind of shows how women in the same villages are trained. It's not just for men, it's also for rural women. And these women, they got trained and they basically started using tablets, which again was done for Ashoka. They use tablets to collect data from the villages. So we use these Android tablets to collect data on the villages on saying what's the nutrition level, what's the healthcare level. And these women were trained to actually go and collect data. And in 4 months' time, they transformed from who has never seen a mobile phone to actually using a smart tablet. And now that opens up their whole new way of thinking for them, and their life actually changes because they stay in the village, but we are empowering the villagers to actually embrace technology and jobs. So what really happens here, again, if you can see the red box, is primarily about education skills and opportunities and market linkages. And essentially what we are trying to do here is do rural poverty alleviation, which reduces migration. The primary reason why people migrate to cities is for jobs. So if you're able to provide them the jobs there, then poverty alleviation actually happens. So again, as you can see here, the focus is on skills and personality. It's not about whether you can get the job done right. It's primarily about what's the skills and personality. So that's Heddle High. Now I just want to kind of summarize by saying, this is great. We can probably reach thousands of people, but it's not again enough. We really need to reach everyone, right? Every unemployed person must get a job. The only way we believe that can be possible is that if everybody can cause change, can take change in their hands. Now the same book which was given to you by the forum, if you browse through the pages, you will realize malnutrition is a huge problem in the world. And you can realize that education is a problem, healthcare is a problem, housing is a problem. But now, if you're able to train people to embrace even parts of that problem, you're not only just addressing the problem, but you keep creating entrepreneurs. That everybody can cause change. So how do you do that? So we believe that there are 4 skills which are primarily required to become an entrepreneur for social change. And that 4 skills for us are, first one is empathy. Now, I can probably talk to you again for another half an hour just on empathy, but empathy, as all of you know, is the one skill which allows you to think the way the other person is feeling. Now, that's extremely critical if you want to cause social change. Now, why is it new leadership? Because the world is accelerating very differently. You cannot get jobs done in your own organization, in your own teams, when you become an autocratic leader. Now the world needs a very different kind of a leader. Now, do you have those skills? Third one is to be part of the team like that, you need to be having different teamwork. I always take the example of a basketball team. Do you know who's the captain of a basketball team? Have you ever seen anybody talk as the captain of a basketball team? I haven't. It's simply because whoever's got the ball is the captain. It's as simple as that. Now that is extremely critical in the new organization style which is going to come up. And obviously then finally is change making. So I just believe that if these skills are taught in the right manner, then we're addressing unemployment in a completely different way rather than just creating jobs. Creating jobs are important, but that's not the solution. Let me just end by one of my favorite poems, and I'm sure some of you have seen this. I just want to read the first 3 lines. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. And final line, into that heaven of freedom my father led my country away. Now this is relevant even today, because this is when you really empower people to really collaborate and work together. And that, I believe, is what will change the face of unemployment. And let's make an unemployment history. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vishnu. It sounds so simple, but I'm sure very effective. It gives me great pleasure to now, if we could have the next slides up there, to introduce representatives from the Prince's Charities. I'll be introducing Shabir, Randaree, CBE, who's Executive Chairman of DCD Group with over 25 years of experience in commercial real estate. In terms of his capacity on the stage, he's also on the National Advisory Board for Mosaic. So if we could have that slide up there, and if you could welcome Shabir onto the stage.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Great pleasure to be here to represent Prince's Charities and Mosaic in particular, which is charity I sit on. I hope those of you who are local, let's say of English and British origin here, won't be surprised to know about the Prince's Charity, but the others who are visitors here, we'd like to share with you something about the Prince's Charities. So Prince's Charities refers to His Royal Highness Prince Charles, who was here last evening and made a keynote speech, and has been patron of a number of charities in the United Kingdom. I'm going to give you just a few facts about the charity and then introduce a colleague of ours, Andrew Ward, who represents Youth Business International, to talk to you more on that side. Before I give you the statistics, I'd just like to say it's wonderful to listen to you, Vishnu. We're kind of in the same space as you, and perhaps in your words, we are trying to make youth work ready. Okay, so we're not dealing necessarily with some of the panaceas you were talking about, but we're trying to make youth ready. The Prince's Charities are the largest multi-cause charitable enterprise in the United Kingdom. Prince of Wales has given business support to 395,000 people over the years and created 125,000 entrepreneurs. These were according to figures that were released this year in September. The charities date back, somebody might correct me here, to the 1970s when the Prince himself was quite a young man. 80,000 young people have been helped to start up in business in the UK since 1983 by the Prince's Trust itself. 21,000 businesses across 37 countries have been established with help from the Prince's Youth Business International. And that's appropriate for me then to introduce Andrew Ward. Nizam, I need the bio, please. Sorry about that. I could have ad-libbed this, but So it gives me pleasure to introduce Andrew. Andrew's joined the YBI, Youth Business International, in 2012. His role is to lead the resource-raising team at YBI and sourcing funds and building long-term relationships. Andrew's background comes from the sector of development. He has over 30 years experience across public and private sector roles with a focus on corporate sponsorship, event-based fundraising, and donations from high net worth individuals. I'm sure you're going to enjoy the presentation he's got for you, and then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about Mosaic, the charity which I represent, and introduce our Operations Director, Kim, as well. Andrew?
Good morning and welcome. I say action speaks louder than words, so I'm going to start off by showing you a video and then saying a few words. So.
මාසෙකට ඩොලර් 80ක් වගේ ආදායමක් අපිට ලැබෙනවා. අපිට මීට කලින් ඉදී ලබා ගන්න බැරි වුණා. මොනවා නිසා තමයි අපිට
I don't know how to describe him to your the best of your understanding. He's simply the best.
Okay, thank you very much. The Prince's Youth Business International was set up by the Prince of Wales originally in 2000 as part of the International Business Leaders Forum, and we became an independent charity in the year 2008. So what do? We offer a combination of training, a low-interest loan, and importantly a mentor for young people. Last year we helped 11,884 young people set up in business. They, on average, will go on to employ 3.4 people. We're set up now in 40 countries. This video was done last year. The important part is the mentoring. We actually engage over 15,000 mentors around the world in those 40 countries. And that's what I'm going to say is the difference between a handout and a hand up. Because if we just offered the training and then gave them a loan and said, we'll see you in 3 years, they'd be back for another loan. So I'm going to say that is a really key part of helping young people set up in business. It is making a real difference. I've got lots to say, but I think I need to, in the essence of time, to finish now, and then perhaps in the question and answer session, we can delve in a little bit more about what we do and how we make a difference. But just to say, these are the countries that we're in currently at the moment. We just recently set up in July in Jordan. We are in Saudi Arabia, we're in China, etc., etc. But just lastly, on a few figures just to dwell on, the important thing here is, we saw in the slide earlier, that there are 75 million young people aged 18 to 24 that are employed. But the fact is that in places like Kenya, actually, the 70% of the population are aged 18 to 24, and of that 70% of the population, 65% of those people have not got a job and have never had a job. So the challenge is huge, and we have to make a difference collectively, all of us. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to...
Thank you, Andrew. That was very interesting. I'll just repeat one statistic Andrew mentioned for YBI, which is that YBI helped 100,000 youth to start their businesses. That's 100,000 families' lives changed in one stroke, so that's remarkable. I'm just going to speak a few minutes about Mosaic, organization which is very close to my heart, and I've been very privileged to be on the board of Mosaic and chair Mosaic Associates as well. So Mosaic is an initiative which falls under the umbrella of the Princess Charities with BITC, Business in the Community. We started at a much earlier stage tackling the problem that Vishnu and Andrew have been talking about. So we deal with children, okay, and then we go through to secondary schools as well. And as I said earlier, we try and make them work ready, or make the environment work ready, and offer the conditions for them. And Kim's going to be talking about that in a few minutes. One other factor I should stress about Mosaic, which is fairly unique, I think, certainly in the UK, maybe in the world, is that although it was founded by His Royal Highness Prince Charles, it's being championed by Muslims. Okay? So I'm a Muslim, I live in this country, I was born in Saudi Arabia, I grew up here, I live here. The majority of the people who volunteer and run Mosaic, not all, the majority are actually British Muslims. So it is quite unique in that way, although we don't only mentor Muslim children or youth, we mentor anyone who needs it, but it is very much a charity which is challenged by Muslims. Of the 395,000 people we have supported, around 14,000 individuals were given mentoring or training in enterprise, and Andrew's already touched upon that. In the last academic year, 5,000 young people just in the UK were mentored through the Mosaic's Enterprise Challenge program, and Kim's going to come back to that. The Enterprise Challenge is a national competition for secondary schools across the UK, designed to develop and encourage entrepreneurial skills. Again, Vishnu talked about entrepreneurship being one of the solutions to unemployment. So again, we're starting at an early stage. Teams of students work with a mentor from the business community to learn about becoming future business leaders. They play a simulation game, you're going to see a bit of that, and come up with fantastic business ideas. Those of you who come from abroad, it's a wonderful model. We've actually exported this. So Mosaic has gone, it's been so successful in the UK. It's been supported by a huge private equity company called Apex, and then we've had the likes of Shell and others who have supported us. So we've taken the program through to Jordan, Qatar, and currently in talks with other Middle Eastern and Asian countries as well. The importance of, this is our belief, the importance of business mentors and volunteers is critical to delivering our mission. From a personal point of view, I'd just like to add as well that somebody once said, if you want to do something to give back to society, the best thing you can do is to make a change through just one life. And we're hopefully doing that with thousands of people. And in our own way, each of us is trying to do that as well, whether it's through mentoring, through better business opportunities, youth opportunities, etc. At that juncture, I'd like to introduce the person who actually goes out there and does most of the work, and we can talk about it, is Kim O'Reilly. Kim's head of our operations at Mosaic, and she's been with us for 4.5 years. Like a lot of the team at Mosaic, Kim actually joined as a regional development director and then progressed from that. There's not a lot about delivering programs that Kim doesn't know. This is where the program gets a little bit more technical, I warn you in advance, but it's still very interesting, and we look forward to some Q&As from everyone. Kim.
Thank you, Shabir, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about the work that Mosaic is doing, and we run a series of mentoring programs designed to raise the aspirations of young people so they feel more resilient, improve their critical thinking skills, so that they're more ready for the workplace. But as Shabir has said, I'm going to spend a bit of time today talking specifically about our Enterprise Challenge, which encourages young people to consider business and entrepreneurial skills as an option for the future. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and how it works, but then share with you some of the key ingredients that we feel we've had to pull together in order to make this a successful intervention that works. So what is the Enterprise Challenge and what is it trying to achieve? Well, the theme today is youth unemployment, and we're working with students as young as 9 years old up to 16, 18 years old to tackle youth unemployment by encouraging entrepreneurship. And we do this through raising their aspirations and then, most importantly, developing the young person's skills and confidence and self-belief to achieve those aspirations. How does the Enterprise Challenge work? Well, it brings students, specifically aged 11 and 16 years old, who are at secondary school here in the UK. They have to form teams with their fellow classmates of between 3 and 5 students, and we encourage them to operate as a mini enterprise, a mini business where they assign roles and act as if they were really in the boardroom. We target young people who have underdeveloped skills, confidence, and often a lack of awareness of what's required in the workplace. They don't necessarily have an awareness of careers, and they don't have contact with those already successful, people like Shabir, who've gone on and done it, who can act as role models to them, whom they can aspire to be like, and most importantly, they will believe, well, I could do something like that because I'm like that person. We hope that all of this will increase self-belief, and most importantly, the challenge gives these young people a taste of success because they're working towards completing goals to get a competition score. Each team is provided with a mentor from a business background, and the mentor encourages them to achieve 2 competition goals which are scored. They enable the young people to practice and understand better the implications of their choices. They identify how the challenge that they're competing in relates to the real world of business through the mentor's real world life experiences. And it bridges the gap between school and the world of work at a much earlier age. The teams have access to an online business simulation game, and this game has been developed specifically for Mosaic by a professional provider called The goal in the game is to achieve the highest net profit at the end of a simulated 3 years of trading. And as you can see, there's a visual on screen of what the game looks like. It simulates a business environment with access to resources, with simulated colleagues and simulated competitors. Now, as I said, the mentors who are working with the young people spend at least 6 hours with them over a 6-week period, mentoring them to really understand what makes the game tick. What choices are they making about how they market products and how they employ their staff, so they can generate a good net profit. We also ask the young people to work with their mentors to do a second task, which is, if this business, this simulation were real and not hypothetical, how would you make sure it was also responsible and ethical? And mentors work with teams in order to look at case studies of businesses that are really doing social entrepreneur work and social responsibility, and identify them for themselves. How would a good business that makes profit also be responsible? And we think that's really important responsibility for Mosaic, because if we're going to be encouraging young people to start businesses and work in business, they need to understand the responsibility they also have to society and give back. We add these two scores together and we invite the top scoring 5 teams in each region in the UK. So we work in London, Yorkshire, North West, Midlands. And the winner in each region goes to a regional finals where they have to pitch a real social enterprise idea that pulls together all of the learning they've had from the game and from working with their mentors. If they win that stage, they're invited along to the grand finals in London, where they pitch again in front of a panel of judges and 150 to 200 business leaders to see if they're going to be the ultimate winner. And what we really build into the programme is the sense of competition and incentives such as prizes, which make young people who might be disengaged more motivated, because there's cash prizes for the school, there's seed corn funding for their actual business idea, and nicely we take all the students around who win on an apprentice style, if anyone's aware of that show, day of prizes. This year they were taken around in Bentleys to meet Danny Alexander at the Treasury here in the UK and to have a private viewing of His Royal Highness Prince of Wales' private residence, Clarence House. So, in the words of the young girl that experienced that day, she said, "I feel like a princess having this experience." It's completely out of the ordinary, and that's what we're trying to connect our young people with. Now, what is required in order to put on a good enterprise challenge? And that's really what I want to summarise today. I've explained how it works, but how do you make it work and make it effective? Well, we think there are 10 key steps. Firstly, you need proactive, visionary and ambitious funders who are willing to fund you for a long period of time so the programme can be sustainable and expand year on year. And as Shabir mentioned, we've been lucky enough to receive that funding from Apex Partners Equity House for the last 5 years. 3 years ago, we got our next special ingredient, which was public sector support and buy-in from the government. And the Department of Communities and Local Government have backed the programme so that it can reach more and more young people around the UK. Thirdly, you need a good product. You saw a glimpse of the game there. You need something that young people can relate to, that they can interact with, an innovative, interactive game that they can interface with because they're young and they like competition and they like technology. You need committed and motivated inspirational mentors. People who are willing to give up of their time. As Andrew said, you could do this with the teachers, you could do it by themselves, but without the mentors you don't do the motivating and the inspiring and the relating to real life that will really push them forward. You need successful mentor resources and training. People are coming to us to mentor for the very first time. They've got a range of experience, so we provide resources, as you can see there, which talk mentors through the process and best practice of how to deliver the service. You need flexible approach and committed schools, committed partners. Everyone needs to do their bit for this to be a success. No one bit can stand in isolation. As I said, you need prizes and incentives. All students are recognised with certificates. There are goodie bags, there are prizes for all of the finalists, and the day of exciting experiences that I mentioned, all allowed because of the generosity of our funders. Key, and this is again relates to what Andrew said in terms of best practice, once these finalists have set up their business idea, you can't just leave them to it. You need to follow up with them, and we do that by APAC's, our partners, providing mentors for the winning team each year to get their business off the ground. And lastly, there's no point doing any of this good work unless people know about it. There needs to be profile, there needs to be PR, because otherwise you won't get more schools, more students and more mentors participating to reach that rather challenging overall target that we have to address the issues of youth unemployment. So I'll finish by saying that the success of the programme has been demonstrated, as Shabir said, by its rollout in Qatar and Jordan. We'll actually be celebrating the finals of our very first Qatar competition on the 17th of November. The day before, with fellow Prince's Charities YBI, we will be launching the UK version of this year's Enterprise Challenge as part of YBI's Global Entrepreneurship Week, which we very much look forward to, and I'll be happy to take any questions in the final question and answer session. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to stay here and invite the audience to see if you have any questions for any member of the panel. Has anyone got any questions? Yes.
Yes. My name is Munir. I'm from Switzerland, from the Swiss Arab Network. And what we have seen, I mean, we have two topics. Yeah, sorry. I'll repeat. So my name is Munir Kuzami. I'm from Switzerland, from the Swiss Arab Network. And what we see here is that the part of the apprenticeship, so this is something we have in Switzerland since many years. 15 years ago, myself, I did one. So what I see is, and also statistics show that this sort of dual educational system helps countries really to fight against youth unemployment. So don't you think, from a panel discussion also, that we should go to those governments that don't have introduced this sort of apprenticeship and try to radical the educational system into a sort of dual educational system? Because also in Europe, what we are seeing, this phenomenon now of youth unemployment is not just in developed and underdeveloped countries, also now in Europe a problem. So what do you think?
Let's take that question.
So I think that's... Thank you. I think that's a great point you made. There's a very sort of common saying, it's probably more religious than social, about charity begins at home. So I think organizations like ours, Mosaic, and then Vishnu's Ashoka, which is in India, we have our hands full at home. But if you look at what Andrew's doing with YBI, they've gone international with that. But I think you're absolutely right, and His Royal Highness, or certainly Prince's Charities, have that intent of taking their programs internationally. So what we've done, as Kim said, is we've gone to places like Qatar and further afield as well. And in fact, we've engaged with Malaysians, for example, when I was there last year with Baroness Vasi. We spoke to them, spoke to Indonesians. So we've explored other areas. Problem is about resource at the end of the day. But perhaps, it's something we will make a note of. I think it's a very valid point that we should look at this again, Ken, and see, even if we don't take the program physically, we do some training or incentivize some of these other governments to do some work. Andrew?
Perhaps if I could come in here. Yes, it's true. There isn't one solution to this big problem, but for sure that actually the corporate world does need to come in with these interventions. We've been very fortunate recently that BG Group have pledged a massive 15.9 million to help us develop the young people of today. And I think the important thing here is that not only people haven't got a job, they've never had a job. And so the first thing that one needs to do is to be able to open the minds of those young people to even believe in themselves that they can be that person and go on and set up a business. And I think that's where Youth Business International, what we do, has to work in the local context. And so it's a local bank manager, it's a local people that are coming together to support the community. And that is a really key point here, that yes, we are the Prince's Youth Business International, but we're not taking how we do it in the UK and in Sri Lanka. It's our office in Sri Lanka that is with local people in a local context. And I think that the really thing is that the support that we're giving is to young people who invariably don't have any collateral, don't own a house, don't own a car, and therefore the banks just say, look, I'm sorry, we can't give you credit. And so the people that we're supporting are those that actually are completely underserved, but in all of those people, there's talent. And it's just amazing. I mean, we're absolutely gobsmacked. There's a young person that we've supported in Sri Lanka, and we only gave them $500, but after 3 years with a mentor, that he's now set up a brass foundry business and employing 5 young people, but also has 25 apprentices locally. So he's putting it back into the community. So it's, I think the issue here is a global one, but it's at a local level. But for sure, countries like Spain, they've got unemployment of 54% with young people. So it's not just the likes of Uganda, etc., that have this problem.
Yeah, I just want to kind of add to the point is that I think your point about going to governments and making sure that this is kind of accepted as a kind of norm in these countries are important, but also we need to be aware of the challenges of people who have never been to school or who have completely dropped out of school. And that's, I think, is a larger challenge in the developing countries. Is obviously there are a lot of people going to school, but once they drop out of school, it becomes a completely different game of how do you skill them then, So I think it's, you need to have both initiatives, for sure.
Does anyone else have any questions?
We're on time?
Yeah? Okay, well, thank you very much everyone for attending our masterclass. I hope you enjoyed it. If anyone wants to talk to us offline or get some contact with any of the organisations after today, then please do feel free to get in touch.